Yeah, I've been following your content as well, and Aaron's content, of course, too. It's fantastic. So I really look forward to receiving your newsletters every time they hit my inbox. They've always got my full attention. And yeah, so I want to talk about finding my own path, and I'm hoping that this can be of some use to people who are listening. So I'll share a little bit about what my experience has been, because I think it's been uh, somewhat atypical in that I was a really reluctant lawyer. Was very unclear about the practice of law and whether it was going to be fit for me at all. I finished my articles in 2013, and I just didn't enjoy it. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I was not having a fun time at work. It wasn't grabbing my attention in any kind of meaningful way. And so I actually left the practice of law and started another company managing vacation rentals in Vancouver. And so completely outside of law, nothing to do with it at all. And I just did that for the next 2.5 years. And that gave me a taste of entrepreneurship, of the perils and pitfalls of starting your own business, but just the excitement as well, and what it could mean to actually be in charge of my time, to have a lot of control over how much money I was making, in terms of how hard I was working and what kind of different tactics I was trying. And ultimately, like the business itself had its time, and I saw it through to when it concluded, and it felt like it was time for me to come back to law and confront my resistance, because I realized I had a lot of stories, a lot of preconceptions about what it was to be a lawyer, and not a lot of actual, almost no actual real experience to validate that or disprove it. So for my own sanity, I needed to go back into law and figure out, okay, am I just selling myself a crock of lies about what it actually is to be a lawyer? So I went back into it and hung on my own shingle without really any kind of experience in the chosen practice area that I was in. So I started up in corporate and just doing solicitor work, and I was really just figuring it out, on the fly. And I would network aggressively with other corporate lawyers, and do my best to kind of educate myself as I was going. Thankfully, I did have a little bit of savings from the previous business, so I wasn't desperate to get clients immediately, and I could kind of ramp up slowly. And that allowed me to discover what I needed to learn about the practice areas and educate myself, but also kind of ease my way into, okay, what actually feels good here? What kind of work do I want to take on that actually feels meaningful for me, and what kind of relationships do I want to have with my clients, and how do I want to carry those out? So I think that process of slowly expanding my practice on my terms in a gradual way was really helpful for me. And also all of the networking that I was doing with all these different lawyers, and other solo lawyers in small firms, lawyers who were solos and then had grown in their firms to a handful of lawyers, and folks inside of big law firms. I was getting to kind of harvest their experiences and what they were enjoying. And I think because I was a solo and I was approaching it with a lot of humility, as well you should when you first start out any practice, I think that there was an openness that I had, and an openness that the people that I was speaking with had as well, because it was, I was this completely non-threatening entity. I'm not going to be poaching their clients or anything like that. And so they were very much happy to just share their knowledge, share their precedents, share almost any kind of information that I needed, or that I might want, and be very candid about their own experiences of what was working for them and what wasn't. So I think along the way, what I've really discovered is that it's essential to find one or two things that you can really latch onto as your identity per se as a lawyer, as a business person. And you don't, like we were just talking about micro niches, the worst thing is to try to be everything to everybody. And it's the worst thing in terms of a business development perspective, but also in terms of your own personal sanity perspective, because your attention will always be in 25 different directions. So for me, I've always been very interested in building community. That's how I operated in law school. I was always involved in all these different societies and just trying to connect people. And that is what I'm good at. It's what I enjoy. And so, reaching out to all these other lawyers, like in part it was, figuring out how to get my ropes and how to survive in this profession. But it was also this was just fun for me. This is fun for me to be connecting with others and being vulnerable with them, like, and hoping that they might return in kind. And many of them absolutely did. So that was a bit of a template for how I continued to develop my practice over the years. And eventually I started to form small groups of other lawyers and put them into WhatsApp groups, and we would connect and chat and share referrals and share practice tips, talk about clients that we were working with, troubleshoot specific problems, obviously on a confidential basis. And then eventually this grew into a network that's been created inside of BC. So a Vancouver-based network of lawyers called the BC Small and Solo Practitioner Society, BCSOS. And this was something that was started with 3 other lawyers and myself a few years ago. And it eventually grew into a channel of, I think we're over at like 320 lawyers who can chat on Slack. We meet up once a month or once every 2 months in person. Not all of us, of course, just whomever would like to attend. There usually ends up being like 20 to 30 of us in a room. And this is just such a huge thing for me personally, to be able to just experience a sense of connection with other people inside of my profession. This can be a very lonely world. Legal work, you're very heads down, you're very in the paper and just trying to sort out something that's quite abstract and intellectual. And to have the ability to zoom out a little bit and be connecting with other lawyers is just absolutely essential. And, to take it back to where I started, like I had all these preconceptions about what it was to be a lawyer. And it was, this stodgy, conservative, head down, don't ask too many questions. Like don't pretend that you don't know the answer. Like always know the answer. And if you don't, like just, shut up and then go find it immediately and come back as soon as you can. Just this very, perfectionist kind of A-type mentality that I knew that I wouldn't do well in. It just didn't feel good. And so finding, creating communities, it helped me like develop my practice skills, and of course brought in referrals as well. But it also helped defeat those initial preconceptions. The final piece that I really want to hone in on is education. I think we as lawyers, we are holders of some specialist knowledge, and that is an amazing thing. And that is what we're paid for. We know how to do things and solve certain types of problems that other people do not know how to do. And that's a real gift. And I think like if we can find pathways for us to share that knowledge with others in a way that feels good, then that's going to go a long way. So like we have so many tools now online to be thought leaders, to write on LinkedIn, to write newsletters, like Aaron and Dewal have been doing, and to produce video on YouTube. It's a phenomenal opportunity, and it provides an opportunity for you to express yourself, to feel your own energy, and to have a pathway to communicate that. Because again, like, if you're just staring at a laptop, like it's very disconnecting. I find it very disconnecting. And so I need ways to both be, the intellectual and like figure out the answers, but just to find another pathway to express myself. And so doing that in person and doing that over video is what it's all about. Yeah. So initially, Julie, through, I put myself out as much as I could, first of all. So I very quickly got a website out. I know a lot of new lawyers like don't even bother doing that, and they just rely on referral networks. So, finding some ways to just get your branding out is really helpful. And then I literally just emailed people. I emailed other lawyers. I was in Gastown in Vancouver, and I just contacted all of the lawyers sort of within like a 2-3 kilometer radius of where my office was in Gastown, and hit them up and see who responded. My website is parrbusinesslaw.com, PARR businesslaw.com. It's probably the easiest way. And then, all my social handles are at parrbusinesslaw on LinkedIn and on YouTube.